Well, hello. Alejandro J. Tornato here. And I'm so delighted that we are doing another session of Conversations with Influencers 2.0. And as a matter of fact, I mean, today, as I did the last time that I did Conversations with Influencers 2.0, um, today we should be calling this Conversation with Extraordinary Influencers 100.0, because the guest that I am having today is it's someone whom I have known for quite some time, because we are both members of one incredible platform that is called the Connected Leaders Academy. And I tell you, since the very first moment that I met this guy, I mean, this incredible human being, we connected, and the synergy has been absolutely off the charts. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am so, and by the way, I am streaming this to my Facebook group, I mean, to the Connected Leaders Academy Facebook group, and to my YouTube channel, Alejandro J. Tornato Inspires. And so, I don't want to rob this guy from any time. And it is my delight and my honor and my privilege to introduce to all of you. If you don't know him, well, you will know him after this session. My dear friend, Gordon D. Melville. So, how are you doing, my friend?
Very well, sir. Happy to be here. Honored to be part of your group today.
Yes, it's definitely great. And I tell you one thing. I mean, Gordon, one of the things that we wanted to do, because actually, in all transparency and vulnerability here, um, before when I asked Gordon to be my guest in Conversations with Influencers 2.0, then of course, I mean, Gordon sends me a message, and he says, "Well, Alejandro, I mean, what are we going to be talking about? I mean, which is a very legitimate question." And I said, "Gordon, don't worry. I mean, what I want is something very simple but very profound." And I said, "What I want is, I want people who don't know you to really know truly who Gordon D. Melville is."
Mm.
I know, I mentioned that both of us, I mean, we are not just members of the Connected Leaders Academy, but both of us, I mean, we are part of the Connected Leaders Academy executive team. And that's an incredible privilege. I mean, that's a great opportunity to serve and to reach out to other people. But let me start with this very simple. For people who don't know you, who you are, just spend, I mean, whatever, I mean, the time is yours anyhow, but just tell us who Gordon Melville is. I mean, just tell us, what is a typical day in your life? I mean, what are you all about, my friend?
Hmm. I appreciate that. You know what? Since you mentioned it that way the other day in that comment, I've been thinking about it, and I can I could talk about being, the host of, or the executive producer and host of a live radio show, podcast, TV show that's got 500 million reach on 450 platforms. I could talk about being a multi-award-winning international best-selling author. I could talk about being an international speaker. There's all these different things, and to your question, is that who I am? And it's not really. It's what I do. And to make the distinction between, those are things that I do that are wonderful, and I enjoy them tremendously. But who am I as a human being? Um, is something that, and I believe you were the one that said this or coined it. Um, you had said you were going to call me a human elevator, because I lift people up. And you know what, trying to figure out what I want on my headstone. What do I want people, if I narrow, condense it all down and boil it all down, what is Gord at his essence? What makes me tick, right? Where is that? And it's all comes back to, um I think the maybe one word, couple words is, he made me feel loved. Because I think that's above everything else. We, as humans, we tend to lead with judgment. We tend to have an opinion about what other people are doing and how they look and what they say, and the decisions they've made and whatnot. And really, my opinion about anybody else's stuff is none of it's none of their business. It's none of my business, right? It's my opinion about other people really has no bearing on anybody else. So, but overwhelmingly, I want people to know and to feel after they've had conversations with me that, you know what, he gives a shit about me. He loves me, and it's not a, I want you love. It's a human agape. It's basic. You're a human. I'm a human. I love you. I accept you just the way you are. I'm here to help. I'm a mentor and coach, so I'm here to help. If people want to intentionally grow or expand themselves, I'm all over that. Happy to help. But at the end of the day, I want to emit love. And I think that's a reflection of my papa, who is ultimate love. And so allowing that to flow through me, is it can be the challenge in terms of what my days look like. I'm still not healthy, so I spend, self-care is a huge deal for me. I pay attention. No, it's not perfect. I was at the doctor's yesterday, and he goes, Gord, cholesterol is a little bit higher than we would like to see, and blood sugar is a little bit higher than we would like to see. As a diabetic, we pay attention to those types of things. But self-care is huge. So I make sure, and I mean, that part of the story, that one of the timelines that runs for me is 30 years of Energizer Bunny without any self-care. And we were taught it was selfish to look after yourself first. And so, everybody came before me, and I was built that way. Papa built me that way to be able to go and to run. And in some cases, I guess I was a blunt instrument. If 100 calls didn't do it, I would make 200 calls. And if that didn't do it, I would make 500 calls. And if that didn't do it, I'd make it didn't matter what the activity had to be to get it done. I would just figure it out. And if that meant I worked 22 hours in a day, 10 days a week, I would do it. But what I found was not doing self-care for that long, not paying attention to my body, not listening to what was going on, and not looking after myself was the selfish thing. It was that not looking after yourself is selfish, because what happened was when I got sick in late 2015 and my body shut off and said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, and I was bedridden for 2 years, all of a sudden I was no use to the people that were the reason I was pushing that hard. And so, I let them down in the sense that I didn't look after myself. And so my typical days are almost always there's at least one nap. Lots of days there's a morning nap and an afternoon nap. And if I need to push appointments, I do. If I need to, I've got the flexibility to do that. Some people don't have that flexibility, but making sure that we do whatever the self-care is that we need to do for ourselves, right? So there are some universal ones in terms of sleeping and eating healthy and exercise and things that are just universally healthy. But when I'm talking to people and they talk about either not having time, somebody says to me, Gord, I don't have time. I say respectfully, what I just heard was I don't want to. Because if it's something we really want to get done, we find the time. We'll manufacture the time, whether it's good for us or not good for us. Even doesn't matter. If we have I have a buddy that was with his 10-year-old son in Edmonton, and in the wintertime, they were driving along and they passed this big office building, and there were 3 people outside the front, 10, 12 feet from the front door, with their parka. It was driving snow, minus 40, driving snow, and they're all huddled in this little group, but they were having a smoke. And his 10-year-old son said, wow, there's people that really needed that nicotine, right? Because it was, they were, it didn't matter that it was minus 40 and they were freezing. They made time for something that was important for them. And so when people say, well, I don't have time, I'm like, no, you don't want to. That's what you're telling me. So making time to look after ourselves is something that's paramount for me, but it's something I teach other people as much as I can. Excuse me, make sure you make time to look after you. And that kind of ties into with Jose's morning and evening routine. When you get up in the morning, if you get up at 6 o'clock and you don't have time through the day to do self-care, then you need to get up at whatever time it takes. If that's an hour, so it's now 5 o'clock, it's 4:30, whatever time it needs to be to fit in the time. It's not, I think they did a disservice to saying it's selfish to look after yourself first, because it's not look after yourself first instead of dealing with your obligations and your responsibilities. It's do it so that you can show up the way you anticipate and want to for the people that you need to. And so, you're getting up. I still read 5 to 7 books a month. Even I've been sick for 7, 8 years. I still read 5 to 7 books. I still journal in 5 different journals every day. I mean, the bits and pieces, and that's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. And some people go, Lord, well, maybe you're more self-disciplined, or maybe it's not about, it's setting up the habit and making it go. And so, in terms of, I tend to be a night owl. So my day tends to start late and end late. So, I'm up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's just who I've always been. The time between 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and midnight is really my bandwidth, because that's where I'm most awake and most alert and most, effective for me. Doesn't mean that at 1 o'clock, between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, I'm not alert and can't be with your conversations with influencers, but later in the day, I'm more awake. But if that answers your question.
Sure. Yes, definitely. And you mentioned so many things. I mean, that if we start unpacking those, I mean, we are going to be here, I mean, for a few weeks. But no, I mean, that's, I think that I mean, first of all, I mean, you talk about the fundamentals of leadership. Okay, what is leadership? Is not a title. And when you started talking and you said, well, I could mention to all of you that I am a best-selling author. I mean, I could tell you that I am an international speaker. I can tell you all of these kinds of categories and titles that you can put upon me. But that is not what makes me who I am. And so many leaders this day, they think that who they are is the title that they have on their door, on their office, on their mantelpiece, or whatever. Director of operations, vice president of engineering. I mean, hey, my goodness, I am important because of the title that is associated with me. And that is not who you are.
Amen.
You are not your title.
Right.
You
it's
are
not
who
what you do.
Because that's right. And so you started with that premise, and that is a great teaching lesson for so many people. I mean, forget about titles.
Right. Well, and you know what? I think we get stuck in a cycle of doing, and we need to do, right? We need to execute. I'm not saying we don't, but what I'm saying is what we do should be an extension of who we are.
That's right.
Right. That way it's in alignment. That way it's not, what we do is not who we are. What we do should be an extension. Having lots of Zoom calls with people, They tell me what I wanted. What I want is to find out who they're being. One of my favorite things about you is when you get on with your accent, when you start to talk, there is no mistaking that it's Alejandro. But you still say, "Hey, this is Alejandro J. Tornado," and I'm like, "Yeah, you really like because but that energy comes in the way that you present yourself, in the way that it's your heart." And I think what you have shown me over the length of time we've known each other is who you're being. You've shown me your heart. And so when you say things, I don't have to question, hey, is he trying to be mean to me? Is his intention to me one that's nasty in any way? No, it is not. He's loving on me. He wants to support and encourage. And so, when I talk to people and I find out who they're being, when they tell me what they do, it leads to a couple of different conversations. It's either a, yep, that makes perfect sense because you're doing an extension of who you're being. That's perfect. Or it leads to a conversation where I'm like, it's not much wonder you're frustrated and exhausted all the time. What you're doing is not at all in alignment with who you're being and who you're wanting to become. So, right. And it allows, without doing the coaching mentoring thing with them, it allows a conversation where, hey, you know what? I hadn't thought of that before. What I'm doing, I enjoy what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter whether I'm saying what you're doing is bad. What you're doing could be great. You may love what you're doing, but if it's not in alignment with who you're being, you're going to be tired. It's going to be frustrating, and you're building a life you need a vacation from. You're building a life that people look forward to. Friday. Oh, I gotta have Friday. Friday. Oh, thank God it's Friday. Why? Why? Well, the week's over. Well, so what? So weekend, I think, and you and I have heard this before. Instead of spelling that WEEK, weekend, the week's end, it's WEAK, weekend,
Yeah,
right? Because we let go, right? We stop,
yeah,
right? And it sorry, my screen went blank there for a second. It allows it stops us from being, right? We let everything down. We relax, our bodies relax. We don't do the same types of things on the weekend. It's a less than powerful way to end our week, which is sad considering that's Papa's day in terms of Sabbath, if we have that kind of a spirituality, right? But being able to have it's not a that's when everybody lets down. You want to move forward and excel. Don't let down on Friday night. And I'm not saying run through the whole weekend without any break. That's not what I'm saying. Because there is a benefit to Netflix and binge watching and spending time with the family on the couch. You got to do that. We have to do that, but in its time and place, right? And so, being able to look and work when other people aren't working, push when other people aren't pushing, because that's how you get ahead. They've stopped and you keep pushing forward. And so, awareness is a huge, huge deal for me, because I can't change it or fix it if I'm not aware, if I don't know. Right. And so, being able to say, you know what, I'm aware that there's a challenge. I'm aware that I need to push. I'm aware that I need to do self-care. I'm aware that's happening. And once I become aware, then I can do something about it. We all hear, when I know better, I'll do better. And that's absolutely correct. When we are aware that improvement needs to happen, then it becomes a choice. Do I want to push forward? Do I not want to push forward? Right. I heard Jocko, you know who Jocko Jelnik is?
I heard, yes. I heard
Extreme Ownership. Yeah. Navy SEAL. But I heard him recently in a TikTok video say, people talk about choice. I got to choose to get up and I got to choose to do these things. And he said, wait. Did you already make the commitment to go to work in that place? Yep. Did you make the commitment to be there at 9:00? Yep. Then you've already made the choice. Get your butt out of bed. Just go. it's not a choice. You've already made the commitment. The choice part's over, right? You've chosen to be in that relationship. You've chosen to be in that activity. You've chosen to do, and that's great. Do those things, but then step up into those spaces and be what you need to be in that space to get it done, no matter what it
That's
is,
right.
right?
That's right. Exactly. You know, there's a couple of things that yes, I want to talk to you. First is, as a member of the CLA, of course. I mean, we know that it's very is very well encouraged for members and new members to have virtual coffees. I mean, that's another way of saying, well, just connecting with people, perhaps over a Zoom meeting. It could be just a phone call, but a Zoom meeting, so you can talk and see the person and get to know them. And you have already, I mean, talked to many people. Now, in your conversations, I mean, how quickly can you tell whether a person has the right or the wrong motives for having a virtual coffee or a conversation?
That's a
Can
great
you
question.
pick those things? Can you pick those things up? Um, and and um, and what do you do when when you perceive that they don't have the right motives, and instead of them, I mean, wanting to get to know you, they want to maybe sell you stuff, or maybe they want to benefit themselves. How can you benefit them as opposed to them benefit you and getting to know you?
Mm. That's a great question. It really is, because that's a life skill. And I don't know, you can't see all those books behind me or what they are specifically, but there's a bunch of them in there that are human behavior. Have been a student of human behavior for forever. I love people watching. I love, you can learn so much about a person just by looking at how they conduct themselves and how they walk and talk, and how they, what they wear, and how all these different things. And our brain takes a snapshot of all that stuff, whether we realize it or not. And so, when I get on with somebody that wants to be transactional instead of relational, um, it it it's sometimes, it's a lot of times, it's what they're saying, it's questions they're asking, it's things that they're saying, it's words that they're using. It's um, you can tell they're not asking, they're asking about what I do initially. What do you do? How do you do it? Tell me about your business. That's a transactional thing. What they're doing is trying to figure out, hey, is this person viable for me in terms of either they're a client or can they lead me to clients based on what they do and how they do it. And you get a real sense of that very, very quickly. And like instantly when they start to ask questions. And I like
Mhm.
doing both. I like allowing someone to begin the conversation. I've had conversations with people where I've done a little bit of research about them, and I tell them, full disclosure, I creep through your social media a little bit to find out about a little bit who I'm talking to, and we always sort of laugh and go, yeah, no, I did the same thing, or whatnot. But um, being able to know how they present themselves and what are the things they want to know about me, um, because those questions are very telling. If they start a conversation by going, you know, where are you living, tell me about your personal life, tell me about, I heard in one of the pieces, I was on one of the calls with you, and I heard that you're not well. What's that about? How does that work? What's going on? When they lead with that kind of thing, it tells me where their heart is, because their heart isn't necessary. Now that could change, right? And sometimes people will lead with that to sort of head fake, sort of a rope-a-dope, right? I want them to think maybe I care, but very quickly, and I think a lot of times, no matter what happens and no matter what the questions are, we've all had conversations where we get off the call and we go, you know what? For some reason, I can't put my finger on it, but for some reason, that was just disingenuous somehow, right? I just get a weird, my spider sense are tingling, or I get a weird vibration from them, or something just isn't right. And that's just our gut. That's our sixth sense picking up that they're looking transactional. And even if that's not something that's on the surface, if that's where their brain is at, if that's the reason they joined CLA or any other mastermind group, is to do business. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do business, because we should, but I am in half a dozen different mastermind groups, and one of them has a they're dogmatic about coffee first, business later, if it makes sense. And they're dogmatic about it to the point where they will say, the ownership says, if we find out that you gave a referral or tried to do business with somebody on the first virtual coffee, they'll expel you from the group. That's how dogmatic they are about, hey, so what it does is force you into a space where it's relational. The focus is relational. Everybody lets their guard down. Everybody relaxes and goes, no one's going to try and sell me anything, or I can leave my wallet and my credit card in my pants or in my desk or wherever. I'm not going to need it. But it also expands the number of virtual coffees that happen, because if I talk to you and while we're talking, I'm thinking, wow, you know what? I need to connect Alejandro to these two people that I know would be beneficial for that relation. I can't say that until I have a second call. So it forces another call. And I say to all the new people, you know what? Don't discount really truly to get to know somebody is to spend some time with them like this, or face to face, right?
Sure. Sure.
I tell them that's
Yes.
the only way, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think that it's just connecting with people, having the time to connect. Now, I know that, and you mentioned that you're doing. I mean, you do a show on the Inspired Network,
Inspired choices.
and that
Yep.
Inspired Choices Network, and that has been scattered. I mean, throughout the globe. I mean, is worldwide, and.
Yep.
I heard because I love the topic that you present there, among others, and you talk about EQ, emotional intelligence. I mean, and when you talk and when you expound on emotional intelligence, as a matter of fact, I mean, if for people who are watching or getting the replay later, if you go to the to the link, and Gordon has done, I guess, a part one, a part two. I mean, like a series on emotional intelligence. So he has done a good, a deep work on that. But let me ask you. How would you rank, in order of importance, IQ, intellectual intelligence, EQ, emotional intelligence, and SQ, social intelligence? I mean, how would you put them in a context, and how would you rank them for the people, I mean, to really experience success in life?
That's very interesting. You know what? A lot of people put a lot of emphasis on IQ, how smart you are.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't give a shit how smart you are until they know if you care, right? Sort of a whole thing about they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. That kind of a concept, right? So for me, I think EQ, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, is probably the number one in those three that you just gave me. So emotional quotient, and then social quotient, and then intellectual quotient. Because if I can't, so are you familiar with the TV show House?
The doctor. Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I think that I watch every season and all the episodes. I love the show.
I love that show. But part of the challenge is in a reason I mention it is because his IQ is off the chart. but his EQ and his SQ is in the toilet. He doesn't have any. He's got zero, right? No, and it makes it hard because people don't know how to take him. He doesn't know how to take them. And his bedside manner, there isn't. It's so caustic because he just doesn't know how to interact with another human being in a way that has empathy or sympathy or any kind of human relevance. He just doesn't have it. The only saving grace he has is that he's so brilliant. They put up with his ineptitude on the other things because he's brilliant. So we need that. So we'll put up with the rest of it. But I have to have, and for me, it goes to being able to interact with somebody. It goes to if I'm talking to you, I can lay out the facts of what's going on, or I can give you the information. You can get that at Google. You can get that out of a book. You can get the facts anywhere. But being able to massage those facts and customize them into somebody's existence and into their adventure and their journey, that takes empathy and sympathy and EQ and SQ to be able to go, you know what, in a social setting, I need to be able to and to your point about great leaders, and I know we're big John Maxwell guys, that whole concept about leadership and influence comes from your EQ and your SQ, not from your IQ.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So good leaders, it's not about what they know. It's about how they can impart that information to the people around them. And how do they inspire the people around them? Because if they don't inspire them, if they just shoot all this facts, all this IQ all over the place, people will go, wow, smart guy. He's an a-hole, but smart guy. Like, you know, he has no relatability whatsoever, but he's brilliant. And then they don't follow it because there's a disconnect between the actual information and being able to get it across, right?
I mean,
leadership, really good leaders are diplomatic and have that EQ, SQ at such a level they can tell you to go to hell in a way that you'll look forward to the trip.
Well, and how many times I'm sure that you met people. I certainly have met people, lots of them, who they are absolutely geniuses. I mean, very smart. And then you talk to them, and then you said, my goodness, I mean, he is truly an educated fool.
Right.
Because there's so many people who are educated fools. I mean, they're walking around and they have a lot of knowledge and wisdom, but they cannot interact or connect with anybody. Absolutely. Right. I mean, that's appalling. So that's why
such a simple thing to do.
Yeah, and that's why I believe that what makes successful people, or what makes people successful, is not the amount of knowledge that they have, is how they go about with other people, how they fit in this puzzle that we call life. I mean, are you, what is that? Are you like a square peg trying to fit on a round hole or something like that, or you fit nicely with others, and you can have a conversation, you can socialize with others, you can network with others, you can learn from others. Can you imagine, I mean, going back to your example, can you imagine if you have House being smart and also being able to connect with everybody? I mean, my goodness.
He'd have been way more effective if he had a way to have EQ and SQ. He would be an amazing. Not that he's not amazing, but his stock would go up exponentially, because we all know people that wildly successful people that are socially awkward, right? So you think Elon Musk. I think Steve Jobs. I think Bezos. I think who's the guy from Facebook? They're
yes,
right. They're socially just not quite there, and but the thing is, they're wildly successful. How did they do that? Well, they did that because they got together with other people that were socially inept but were brilliant. That was
Yeah,
their flock. And so they got together with people like themselves, and together they all moved forward because between them all, they sort of figured out, hey, you know what? Um, between us all, we can figure out SQ and EQ. We all have lots of
yeah,
IQ, but we need the SQ and the EQ. So let's pool our resources. Our limited, each of us have limited resource of EQ and SQ, but pooled together, maybe we have enough to be able to find investors and bring on people that will help us move forward, right? Because once they
that's
get
right.
that ball rolling, the inertia of that, the momentum of that will take the ball rolling, right? It'll move it along.
That's right. Now, let me ask you, I mean, um, because I consider you, I mean, someone, I mean, uh, with a great level of experience. I mean, you went around the block not one time or twice, but many times. So you have a vast amount of experience, and you have a very high level of awareness of things, and your EQ, I mean, is very high, and so you like. But let me ask you: was there a point in your life journey that you lacked all these things, and how was Gordon back then? When
You
you
know what?
compare the Gordon back then with the Gordon right now, I mean, what can you tell us?
It's interesting because it's almost a trade-off because the Gordon from back then had lots of energy and could go, was Energizer Bunny and could just go and go and go and go and go. And the Gordon now doesn't have that energy. But the Gordon now has some emotional intelligence and is paying attention and some awareness that understands, hey, I can probably go farther faster by slowing down and being more intentional about where I spend my energy because it's a limited resource. It is for all of us, but super, super limited for me. So then I'm very careful what activities I do. I'm very careful where I spend that time and energy. And you know what? In terms of a catalyst, I was 300 miles with my hair on fire. I spent 25 years in the retail automotive sector. I've done everything there is to do on the front end of a dealership, and spent 7 years with Cardone and with Proactive, traveling every major city in the U.S. and Canada, teaching people and troubleshooting and sharing and coaching. But I was doing it 300 miles an hour with my hair on fire. I did have emotional intelligence. My mom just recently, just this year, within the last little bit, because I've always put it to the fact that I have my elevated emotional quotient, my emotional intelligence. I always put that to the fact that I have three younger sisters and my mom. My dad wasn't home a lot. He worked tremendous amount. So I spent a lot of time with my sisters and my mom. Well, that gave me I saw that feminine energy way more than most guys do. And so it had a big effect on me. And my mom said to me just recently, she said, that may be true, but she said, you've always had that. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, you know what? She said, when I was young, she said, I remember a time, she said, you would have been about 3 years old. And my biological father was removed by, for you, it would be FBI. Up here, it was RCMP
Okay.
because of a bunch of things he was doing that were not good, including abusing my mom. But so he had left, and my mom was having a low moment one evening. And it was me and then my younger sister's 15 months younger than I am. The top three of us are all 15 months apart. But it was just this one sister and I as babies. And she said to me, she told me that this one night she was crying and was having a low moment. And apparently I saddled up to her and put my arm around her at 3 years old and was like, "What's wrong, Mom?" And she said, "I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm just I miss having your dad. I miss having him here. I miss, as much as it was abusive, she missed that relationship that she had with him." And apparently I said to her, it's okay, everything will be all right. Let's go find you another mate and me another daddy. And it was something that there was empathy coming from the 3-year-old that was, she said, you've always had that kind of an EQ, if you will, an EI, an emotional intelligence that probably got bolstered by your sisters and I pouring into you and seeing that side of things. But you've always had that. I think the perspective and the awareness came in late 2015 when Papa put me on my back. So I was 300 miles an hour with my hair on fire. I wasn't paying attention. I was just do. I wasn't really focused on who I was being. And so, when my body shut off and said, hey, I don't want to do it anymore, and literally I couldn't get out of bed. Our ensuite at the time was probably 20 feet from our bed, and I would fall down 2 or 3 times trying to get to the bathroom. So a lot of times I would just slide out of bed onto the floor and crawl to the bathroom because I didn't have the energy to hold myself up. And what that did was force me into a space where I had to look up because I was flat on my back. And what I learned very quickly was I have to be more aware of my self-care. I have to be aware. My EQ has to go up. People would call in and say, when I was the boss, and go, Gord, I can't get out of bed. I'm depressed. I can't. And my initial reaction to that, because I didn't have, again, reaction, not response. I make a difference. My reaction to that was, how hard is that to put your feet on the floor, you lazy schmuck? Just get up. Like, I just didn't understand that, right? I say to my wife now, I need to go back and apologize to a lot of people because I just didn't get it. I didn't have an emotional intelligence that would show sympathy and empathy because I thought they were just being lazy because I didn't understand. So Papa allowed me into a space where I learned very quickly what that meant. New appreciation for all of those things: depression, lack of energy, suicide. Again, being in that space, having experienced that, and he knew, Papa knew I needed that experience. I needed that perspective to be able to get my mission done. So to be able to have a meaningful connection with 10 million men globally in the next 24 months with a message of hope that says there are positive ways to deal with the emotions we all feel every day, but we're taught not to show anybody. To be able to have that message and be able to get that out to that many people, I needed the awareness of the emotional intelligence that I just didn't have. And so going through those experiences, and we're gonna experience that anyway, right? 10% what happens to us, 90% how we respond. And we've all heard that kind of thing. But if we don't take those experiences, we're gonna have the highs and lows anyway. We're gonna go through the crap we are. But if I just go through it with a horrible attitude, and I go, you know what? And I get stiff-necked and I'm like, no, I'm pushing back. This is crap. I don't deserve this. This isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Get over it. It just isn't. But that's okay. But being able to look at it and then extract the lesson. Don't waste the challenge, right? If I don't learn from it, I've wasted the opportunity to learn, in which case I'm going to have to go through it again because I didn't learn the lesson the first time. So we need that. We have to pay attention to that. You've heard me talk about planting an acorn in the ground. The acorn, that seed, that acorn is going, what the hell's going on? You just put me in the ground. Like, what is all this? But it has to be there in the dirt because that's where the nutrients are. That seed needs to grow. And it's violent. If you think of an acorn with a little cap on the top, right? As it starts to grow, the cap pops off, the shell breaks up. It's violent. It's messy. It's not comfortable at all. But it has to do that to grow, and it's pulling those nutrients from the soil around it. So the challenges we all face every day and that we go through are the dirt that hold the nutrients we need to grow. And so if I waste that by not learning the lesson, I'm going to continue to be frustrated and angry because I have to go through it again.
Yeah. And that's exactly the same thing as how the butterfly begins their journey, and I heard it so many times. If you actually help a butterfly through the process, you are causing damage, and you
Absolutely.
ruin the butterfly for the rest of their existence.
Absolutely.
So it
Right.
is not the health. They have to go through that.
Right.
Gold has to go through extreme pressures and
Right.
so forth to become diamonds. They have to go
Right.
through that. So anything that is worth having, you
Yes.
have to go through that pain to get
Amen.
it.
Absolutely. I think
and
it's
and
interesting that
and
you say
that's
that. Sorry, an eagle, if you
yeah.
know that about eagles, they're sharp beak. That's how they hunt and eat. And it's really
Oh,
sharp. But over time, because they can live 40, 50 years, but over time, that point gets dull on the tip of their beak. And so eventually, for them to survive, they have to bang that beak against a rock to get it to fall off so that a new one can show up with the proper point on the bottom of it again. And if they don't do
wow.
that, they die. I'm like, they have to go through literally beating their face against the rock so that they can survive. And they have to choose to do that. They have
it
to
it
willingly put themselves into that.
it's really amazing, Gordon. I mean, when we talk about these things, and this, I mean, these things are natural things that
Yeah.
happen in nature. It's
Yep.
amazing. I mean, how wonderfully wise
Mm,
nature is. I mean,
mm,
sometimes you say, why they have to, why this has to happen? Well, it has to happen because nature is wise,
mm.
and nature knows why it
Hmm.
has to happen.
Hmm.
the ones that
Absolutely.
the ones that don't know the ones that don't know why it has to happen is little poor us human beings. I mean, right. I mean, we want everything so easy
Right.
and serve, but nature doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
Nature
And,
doesn't
and
work that way.
we do a disservice to ourselves by trying to make it easy, by
The-
trying
the-
not to go right. I'm not saying add stuff to it. We don't have to make it even harder than it is, but
yeah.
to go through stuff, and we can learn so much from nature. There's so much we can learn. That same eagle. When you hear people say, "Well, how are you doing today?" and they go, "Oh, I'm all right under the circumstances," and you're like, "Well, what are you doing under there? Like, what are you doing under the circumstances?" Like, so that same eagle, they don't hang out in the storm. They don't hang out in the rain. They fly above the clouds where it's bright and sunny and
That's right.
whatever. There is no rain up there. There's no right to live above the clouds, not under the cloud, not under the circumstances. Right? To
That's right.
that acorn is going to pull only the nutrients it needs in the quantities it needs to become an oak tree.
That's
Sitting
right.
next to a rose bush, and the rose bush is only pulling out of the ground the nutrients it needs in the quantities
Yeah.
it needs to be a rose bush. And as humans,
Yeah.
we go, I'm going to have whatever I want, whether I need it or not. And I'm going to have it in quantities that makes a scarcity for other people. I don't care. And it's like, what? Like, what?
that that-
And we
I
wonder
mean, I
why the
mean,
world
that's
is
right.
messed
I mean, it's definitely, and I can um uh, I was going to ask you something, because when you said the Gordon back then was a Gordon with energy, and he was a Gordon with go 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 all the time and so forth. Now, back then what was Gordon's motivation for doing that? I mean, did you want to become a wealthy person? Did you want to earn a global reputation and fame? I mean, what was the motivation behind that kind of a go 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 all the time?
up. Um, and I'm going to try and tell you without being emotional, because it's something that
And if
the
you get
pair
emotional, I mean, I don't care. I mean, yeah, you can be emotional. I mean, I
and I,
mean, we
I
are
appreciate
real
that.
here.
I appreciate that. Being transparent and vulnerable, I've always been with you. And it's growing up. Um, Dad worked really hard and showed us what work ethic, in terms of what the father figure in the household was doing. And so that kind of built into me a work ethic that was really strong work ethic, really strong. So I had no problem. That's what I'm saying. I had no problem working 20 hours, 22 hours, 23 hours, going days at a time if I needed to. You're in the US, so you'll understand this. Canadians don't seem to understand the same way, but the longest trip I ever took when I was working with Grant, at one shot, I left LA and drove across to Jacksonville, Florida. So that's essentially coast to coast. And then from Jacksonville, Florida to here to Waterloo. So beyond Detroit, 4 hours above Detroit, all in one shot, 5 days, no sleep. I stopped to get gas and I stopped to pee. That was it. I didn't sleep. But that was the work ethic that just sort of went, I'm just going to go and go and go and go. But something that a few years ago came to light was and again, working on emotional intelligence, working on me, because I think we should be working on ourselves at least as hard as we work on our business. If we work on ourselves more, the other things around us will change because we grow, we respond differently to those people, in which case things change. And so working on myself and journaling and journaling and journaling, and I came across this paradigm in me that, and this memory. I was probably 14 or 15 years old, and I was a belligerent kid. I pushed back. We were raised very, very strict Baptist, and I rebelled against that in a lot of ways, vehemently. And I was in trouble this one day, and we lived in a back split, and my mom was in the kitchen, and I was on the bedroom floor, 4 or 5 steps up from her. And I'll never forget, it burned onto my brain. But she looked up at me and she pointed her finger at me and she said, "You'll never amount to anything." And that concept, I've never been motivated by money, not ever. My high watermark with Grant was, I don't remember, $500,000 almost a year. And I still lived in the same 900 square foot home with my wife. I still drove the shitty Grand Prix. Like nothing changed because I wasn't at all motivated by the money or the accolade or the title. I really didn't care. It didn't mean anything to me. I just had to prove my mom wrong. I was going to amount to something. So I put the work ethic that had been built into me together with this piece that said, "You're not going to amount to anything." And I went, "I'll show you." And so it just, there wasn't a financial target. There wasn't a, world domination target. It was I'm going to be somebody that people can look up to, that people can, that somebody else will look at me and go, "Hey, he's become somebody." And whatever that meant. And I didn't, at the time, I hadn't been able to articulate what that meant. I just knew I wanted to be somebody. And what I've learned is everybody is somebody. Everybody has worth. And Papa says everybody has infinite value for no other reason than they are. Not because of what they've done or what they think or what their bank account says or where they live or what they drive or what their title at work is or who they know or who their kids are. None of that matters. We all have infinite value for no other reason than we are. And so for me, understanding what my true worth and value is, and that experience with this suicide, that gave me that understanding and awareness of what my value, what my true worth and value is. And it's the same for all of us. It's not special in the sense that, people say, well, we're all unique, just like everybody else. But it's to know what that value is, because I think that's why New Year's resolutions only last 5 weeks. How come? Because something deep inside of us, in the back of our brain, in our paradigm, deep in our subconscious, says to us, "Who the hell do you think you are? Why are you so special? Why should you be healthy? Why should you be lighter? Why should you find time to be able to do personal development? Who are you?" And we go, "You know what? You're right." And because we don't understand what our worth and our value is. And so we don't show up even for ourselves the way we should be or need to be, so that we can show up for the people around us, everybody, our family, our friends, our colleagues, our clients, everybody, right? The way we should be, because it all stems out of that. It all comes out of what I believe my worth and my value is. And so, I learned the hardest of ways, hey, you know what? You have worth and value regardless of what your mom says, regardless of what anybody, I don't need any approval. I don't need validation from anybody on the planet about what my journey is about, because each of our journeys is for us. It's not for your journey, is not for me. And I don't have to understand your journey. I don't have to agree with your journey. I just have to be loving and supportive and encouraging. And as long as I can do that, again, it's your journey is for you. My journey is for me. And once I got that through my head, right, I shaved my head, I let my beard grow. Some people go, oh, what's that? I have a relative that put my face in her hands and went, I hate your hair. And then it's a good thing I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. And if you like it, great. If you don't like it, I don't give a crap. It's not for you. It's for me. If you don't like it, don't look. But to be okay with that. And I think that's where the linchpin hangs. We can be ourselves, 100% authentically ourselves. We can show up that way. What we're afraid of is the fear of rejection. What we're afraid of is that people will judge us based on who I really, truly am. And we have to get past that. We have to be able to go, you know what? I am who I am in the space that I am. And if people like that, great. You and I connected because you're being 100% authentically you. I'm being 100% authentically me. And those vibrations connect. And so right. And so growth minded, we talk about like minded. I want growth minded people. I want to be around people that are looking to increase their vibration, that are looking to be more authentically themselves and can step into that and then be okay with the fact that some people are not going to like that. Oh, that's fine. It's good. I don't care. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to be callous. I don't mean I don't give a shit. I mean, that I still, if you like me and you like the present, great. And if you don't, great. That's still wonderful. You're not part of the tribe. That's fine. I've said that before. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I have to stand in that on my own and know, hey, I'm being me for me, and that's okay. And I don't need validation from anybody else, because when we try and find validation from other people, we get ourselves in trouble. Because if someone rejects us, now we're devastated, right?
Yes. And this is something, I mean, very true, that we have to, one of the things that, and I know that you know that, I don't have to tell you, but one of the things that are non-negotiables in our lives is our values.
Absolutely.
What are our values? If you want to live a life of integrity, a life where people trust you, a life where you have to be truthful to your values. You cannot just flip-flop or change your values according to the situation. No, if one of your values is honesty and integrity, well, you have to show up every day in alignment with that value. It's not that today you are honest and you speak the truth, but tomorrow, well, you can shave the truth a little bit, and you can be no. That's you. If that is your value, you have to display that value every single time, and that's what makes you such a truthful person, because you are in alignment with your values.
Well, I separate the two out. So the values you're talking about, you're absolutely correct. I can't show up disingenuous. I can't say, hey, this is what I believe in, and then not do that. You have to actually execute what you believe in. But those kind of values, I separate my values that way from what my personal value is. What is your intrinsic value? What is your value that you bring to the world, or that you bring to the marketplace, or that you bring to other people? Your value. Do you know what I mean? To differentiate from our values, we have our values. We have to have that. You're
That's
absolutely
right.
correct. But I
Yeah.
have to know what my value is, not what
Yes.
my
Oh, yeah.
values are. What
Yeah.
without anything else, what is my value? What's my worth? What's
That's
my
right.
intrinsic worth? Because if I don't know what that is, it makes it difficult to show up the way I need to. Because I'm always second guessing. Well, I'm not worth anything, or I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or
Mm.
I don't have what I
Uh,
need to have. I did an episode about getting past our butts, right? And we go,
uh-huh.
what do you mean, right? Well, but I don't have enough money, but I don't have enough resource, but I don't have the skill, but I don't have no, wait. Get past your butt. You step. You don't need some of those things. Understand our worth. Our worth is infinite for no other reason than we. You don't have to do anything. You don't have
Yeah.
to be anything other than what you are, and you have infinite value. Because once we understand that, I think we show up different. We make choices different. We decide different things. We make different choices around us and who to be with and what to do and how to execute all of that. We show up differently when we understand what our worth is. Do you know what I mean? We will step up. It doesn't matter whether anybody else sees it or not. I know I have value. I know I have worth. Whether anybody else sees it or not, it doesn't matter. I know, and to be confident in that, and know, you know what? Papa says I got. So he's got me. He says I have infinite value. I don't
Yeah.
need it validation from anybody else. And then I show up in a completely different, a completely confident way
Yeah.
in my
That's
life
right.
with people because I believe, yep, no, I have value and worth. I have something to impart to somebody else just by having a conversation, just by sharing with them
And
who
I
I am.
yeah. And I think Gordon, that once we realize what is our value, our intrinsic value, then we are going to start seeing the value in other people.
Absolutely right. Amen.
The value in other people, because and just for I mean, yes, we are human beings, and that's the primary value. We are
Mhm.
here and we have value.
Right.
Now then you can say, well, now then you have a value as a speaker, you have a value as a business person, you have a value as whatever it is, but your intrinsic, if none of those things were there, you still
Right.
have value. That's
Right.
right.
Well, I think it goes beyond that, even in the sense that none of those things add anything to your value.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
oh, I've got infinite value. Oh, and then I'm a speaker, so that increase. No, 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 no. I have
No.
infinite value, including all of those other things.
Sure.
None of those things make me better than anybody else,
That's
right?
right.
I think sometimes we believe our press, and people tell it, oh, you're amazing, or this is awesome, or we get accolade, or we get whatever, and then we believe our press. You watch athletes do that where they get told, oh, you're amazing, and the next thing you know, they're in the toilet because they've stopped executing at that high level because they believe, they're diva now because I'm somebody and you need to kiss my butt, I'm better than. No, 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 no. Right, we're all exactly the same. We're exactly the same. And a billionaire back in the day when I was working with Grant said to me, Gord, I am not better than you because I have more zeros in my bank account than you do. That does not make me a better human being than you. And I was
Yes.
like, wow, you know what? There's a business guy that gets it, right? He understood.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Because I have all this other stuff, a fleet of jets and what doesn't make me a better human being than you, right? It's
That's right.
inclusive. Our intrinsic infinite value is there regardless of what I think, what I do, who I am, what I have. None of those things matter. I have
Sure.
infinite value. We all do.
Yeah. Well, I tell you one thing. I mean, as we are just wrapping up, I mean, this session, and what a great conversation. I mean, I knew that it was going to be a packed, great, and valuable information. I mean, and if you're not watching us live, I mean, but you get the replay, just watch from the very beginning until the very end, because you are going to get, listen, it's just the value of one idea, the value of one idea that can change and transform radically your life. And Gordon has shared so much that can definitely change a person's, life. That is incredible, unbelievable. But as we end and we wrap up this, right now, we are, Raul Marin, another friend, and him, and we are facilitating a mastermind group, and we are going through the book, Becoming a Person of Influence by John Maxwell. And I just want to end, by asking you, I know that you are an influencer. There's no question about that. But I want you to tell us, why do you believe that you are an influencer?
You know what? Something John Maxwell said years ago has always resonated with me in terms of leadership. And he said, you can think you're a leader, but if you turn around and there's nobody behind you, you're not a leader. So, being an influencer, if I am, that's wonderful. Do I believe I am? I know I have positive impact. I know I do. Do I know I am? You know what? I think because my focus has been on loving people, regardless of how they showed up, how they presented to me in my life. If that puts me in a category of influencer, that's wonderful. It's not the primary piece. And so, I think by focusing on loving people and showing up for people and showing up 100% authentically as myself, I think is a gift to people in terms of, hey, this is who I am, the authenticity, the genuineness of that, and having them understand. At the beginning of COVID, I put a sign on our front lawn that said, I love you. And this lady was walking by with her dog, and she goes, how is that possible? You don't even know me. And I said, I don't need to know you. People hate for no reason. I can love for a reason. And she said, what's the reason? I said, you're a human and you're alive. I don't need any other reasons. And she was like, wow. And she kept walking. But I think that goes to the heart of where that's who I am. It's allowing that love of Papa to flow through me into other people. And when people say to me, Gord, I'm going to call you the human elevator because you lift people up. I've had people tell me, conversations with you, Gord, when I talk to you, I hear Gordon D. Melville flavored Papa. And that tells me, hey, you know what? You're on the right track. You're doing the right thing. Just keep doing what you're doing. And if that influences people or that has a positive impact, I'm all over that. But it's really not the focus. It's focused on loving.
And just the last question, and then we're done. Gordon D. Melville, what is your secret sauce for living a fully engaged life?
Having the courage to step out of the cage that I created for myself. We create a cage, and the door's open and we have the key in our hand, right? But it's a cage we built for ourselves. It's no one's trying. If I have a plan to succeed, nobody has a plan not to stop me from succeeding, right? So a lot of us build a cage around ourselves. Oh, I'm restricted. I can't. I'm not. That's not possible because I've got restrictions. And what happens is we sit in that cage so long that eventually we go, I don't know what's outside the cage anymore. So that scares me. So now the cage is protection against whatever's out there because I don't have the courage to step out of the cage and live. And so in terms of secret sauce, Papa is, and that relationship is massive for me, huge part of that. But the other part of that is being courageous enough to step into who we are, to be who you really are, and let the chips fall where they may. To be confident in the fact that, you know what, Papa says I have infinite worth and value. I know if I allow him to flow through me, you know what, however the life happens, it's going to happen. I'm going to choose to be courageous and step into that and be okay with whatever comes and whoever comes. And so what happens a lot of times is some of the people that were in my life have dropped off on their own. I haven't kicked them out of my life. And I've attracted people like yourself and Jose and Raul and all these wonderful, wonderful humans that are at that higher vibration. And then as we continue, but being courageous enough to go, you know what, in terms of secret sauce, continuing to be aware, intentionally continuous growth minded, putting myself out there over and over and over into uncomfortable situations to try and figure out, hey, how do I grow? Not just organically let it happen. I want to grow intentionally. And to continue to do that, connecting with people, reading as many books as you can. Journaling is something that's huge for me. I teach an episode on high level journaling that I got from Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. There's some really high level stuff that it's simple, but it's not easy. And to make that differential, right? It's simple. The concepts aren't hard, but a lot of times they're difficult to implement because it takes courage. It takes the ability to know what your worth and value is. And if you understand what your worth is and you have the courage to step out and be you, the rest of it will look after itself. You'll continue to learn and continue to grow. But if you don't have those things, it makes it really, really hard.
Excellent. Well, Gordon, Melville, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you know that I appreciate you. You know that every opportunity that we have, I mean, to interact, I tell you, you are going to be going to the CLA Connected Leaders Academy Global Summit. That happens in October of this year, October 13th through the 15th. Is going to be a wonderful event. And I am attending, so I am looking so much forward to connecting with you, not just through the power of a virtual event or a virtual conversation, but actually sharing tea or sharing coffee or sharing whatever beverage, I mean, and then just talking and connecting in the flesh. It's just going to be a wonderful time, a wonderful experience. And
I've got a bunch of hugs for you.
Yes.
They're
So
piling
that's
up.
for sure.
I might not have room in my suitcase for them all by the time I head out, but
I don't know. I don't know if through the event I'm going to be surviving. I mean, those hugs. I mean, maybe I'll just go walk into the event, but they take me horizontal out of the event.
No, they won't knock you out. They may lift your vibration, but they won't hurt you.
No, that's good. Thank you so very much. And
Thank
to
you.
all of you, if you have not just watch this episode, because it's going to definitely not only lift your spirits, but give you so much information and valuable practical things, I mean, that you can begin implementing today. Okay, so thank you once again, and I'll see you all in our next conversation with Influencers 2.0. Take care and be well. Bye-bye, Gordon.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.